Claude Design may not be a storyline killer, but is it a Squarespace, Wix, or Webflow killer? You tell me. This fully built portfolio website took me less than a day to build in Claude Design. I started with a logo, a picture of myself, and a general idea. And before I knew it, I had a fully functioning professional portfolio website. If you are just starting the build of your portfolio website, or you're looking for an easy website to manage if you already have a portfolio, then stick around because I'm going to show you my entire workflow from beginning to hosting this website. And I'll even share the prompts that I used and improved on throughout my experimentation. I'll share those with you so that you can potentially get your website up and running by the end of this week. Hey there, I'm Sabrina, one of the IDs on Devlin's team, and I have reviewed a lot of portfolio websites over the past few years. In Peck Academy, I've seen firsthand how much time students invest in their sites and how frustrating it can be to get something in just the right place. Not to mention that hosting is always not so budget friendly, but what if you could build a professional portfolio website faster, make it easier to update, and make hosting a little bit less expensive? Well, that's exactly what we can do with Claude Design and the hosting feature on devlin.ai. So I want to show you these websites. So I showed you this one at the beginning, right? Here's another one. These are products of my testing that I did with Claude Design to make sure the workflow I show you is really solid. And I wanted to show you these to show you that this process is not going to give you a cookie cutter portfolio website. We can make it unique to you. And in fact, this website and this one that I'm showing here are all one-page websites. So everything is on the homepage, and then there's a separate page for the project write-up. But this last one here, this like dark mode site, actually is a multi-page portfolio website. So there is a homepage, and then there's like, you can navigate to a different page that is the about section and things like that. It does just have placeholders. I didn't build it all the way out. But I just wanted to show you those because we can totally customize this to what kind of project you'd want. In this video, we're going to walk through the build process, how to export your website from Claude Design, and then how to host the website on devlin.ai. By the end of this video, I think you'll see why platforms like Squarespace and Wix might just be a thing of the past. So let's get started. I started by using Claude, or what I refer to as regular Claude, since there's Claude, Claude Design, Claude Code. So I started using regular Claude to help me write an initial prompt. And then through lots of testing and iterations, I have this final prompt that you see here. And that's what I'm going to be using in the build today. So we'll go through all of the pieces here in just a second of the prompt. But I did use Claude to help me write a really solid prompt. And like I said, I've done a lot of testing to make sure it's really solid and will give a good result every time. If you want to build along with me or build your portfolio website in Claude Design and use the prompts that I'm showing here, you can grab those by using the link in the description. And you'll see that this document actually has 3 different prompts. The first one is to build a portfolio website. And then the last 2 are how you are going to export your portfolio website. So this has the 3 prompts that you're going to need. So grab them with the link down in the description below so that you have them for yourself and you can use them. Okay, let's talk about this prompt just a little bit before we jump into Claude Design. So up here are directions, right? It tells you to copy and paste. You're going to choose prototype as a template. If you've not been in Claude Design before, you have templates here. So you do want to start as a prototype so that it is clickable and functioning. And then we have a note here that will be important once it starts the build. If you do have like a LinkedIn button on your website, it's going to feel broken, like it's not working. You're going to get a 404 error. That's just because the way LinkedIn is built, it doesn't like accessing its site from within like a frame, but it'll work once it's published. So those are just some pre directions and notes to look at. All right, so now we get into the prompt. So the prompt has an overview. Just like any other AI, right? It is just AI. We wanted to tell it its role, what's going on. So that's what we have here. The first step is going to ask questions. So you're going to kind of have like a website building consultation with Claude, and it's going to ask you a few questions to kind of get an idea of who you are as an instructional designer and a feel for like what you want your portfolio website to look like. So it's going to go through a questionnaire with you. And that's what this first step does. So we'll see that here in a second. We'll go through that together. And then the next step is going to build the website. So it knows the structure. And there are 2 options. So like I said, a lot of the sites, or the 2 sites that I showed you earlier were one-page portfolios, but you can also do multi-page portfolios. where it's just going to build every page out separately. This is the structure of the site of how it's going to build them. So for the home page, it's going to follow this order where we have a navigation bar, a hero section, a featured project, testimonials, about me, a contact like banner, and then the footer at the bottom with clickable stuff. And then the project page is going to follow this format. If before you build, you know you want things to be in a different order, this is where you can change them up in your prompt before sharing it with Claude. Then we have branding. If you're not sure what your branding is going to be, there are placeholders. So the font is Enter, and then we have like a white, black, a purple, and I think like a gray, something like that. So there are placeholders in there in case you're not really sure what you want. There's placeholders, and then you just go through and change them. Also, other placeholders, if you don't have like the text or images that you want in your website, Claude will put placeholders there, and it's going to clearly label them. So it'll have like brackets and say hero image so that you know your image goes there. So you don't really need to have everything immediately once you start. It does help to gather some of those things, but it's not completely necessary. This is probably going to be a few hours of work, so working on it a little at a time is fine. Next up is the design principles. So there's a few design principles here that Claude is following, making sure that it's not being like an overwhelming site unless you're telling it to add a bunch of stuff in. And then very important here that it is following those contrast guidelines. It is AI, so it is definitely good to still check that on your own with your color palette, but it will do its best to use any combinations of your colors and make them within the contrast guidelines. All right, once that site is built, it's going to say, here you go, here's your site. Placeholders are labeled, drop in your assets. So that's when you can give it like your logo, your images, any copy for the write-up or whatever it may be. You can drop those things in. There are some specific notes here for Claude Design that are important. So it's not going to build until you answer the questions. Didn't follow that like little questionnaire at the beginning. It's going to use your uploaded stuff. If there's a conflict between like answers and upload, it's not just going to make its own decision. It'll ask you what you want. It's meant to take its time. I did find some quirks with like hover states where things weren't working. So you'll see a note here to make sure that hover states work correctly. It will already be set to work on mobile view. It's going to use that like hamburger 3-bar button. And so it should work on mobile as well, which is nice because other platforms make it a little difficult to do that. We don't want things to disappear on smaller screens. This is the one about LinkedIn. So it knows how to set the code specifically for these buttons to work. And then this one was another issue that I kept running into. I usually have my desktop is on dark mode. And so what was happening is it just assumed that the body or background of somebody's screen would be white. And so when I published and looked at the site, it was black because I was using dark mode on my computer. So this knows now to make every section have its own like fill color so that that doesn't happen and your site doesn't look different on different platforms if you don't want it to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt and we're going to take it into Claude Design. All right, so here's Claude Design. I'm going to select prototype as my template. The model, I am going to use Claude Opus 4.8, and Medium has been pretty good. Because the prompt is pretty thorough, I'll stick to Medium. If I want to do some more like interesting changes, then maybe I'll switch it to high. It will have to reread the full conversation if you change it to high, so doing a new chat is better. But anyway, up here, I'm going to go ahead and just paste in that full entire prompt. You'll notice that I was using like asterisks. There were even like, yeah, these things. So this is all in Markdown, which just makes it easier for the AI to read. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and send it through. It's going to scramble and read and think, and I think it even says like sauteing and different stuff. So it's going to do its thing. I'll let it do that, and then we'll come back to those questions. Oh, never mind. Here are the questions. It was that fast. So the first question, of course, it gathers is your name. So I'll answer that. That's an easy one. Next, it's going to ask you what kind of site you want. So we're going to do a 1-page for this sample. I'm not showing you the first page that I built. This one, we're going to go ahead and build one from scratch together right now. So we're doing it live together right now. What fill do you want? I definitely want sharp and corporate for this one. I think I want it, let's try like more like luxury style. So I want it to feel a little bit like fancier. What makes your instructional design work distinctive? So this is going to be where you can really talk about what is different about your work, and it has some guiding stuff here. I'm going to come back and answer that one because I don't want you to have to watch me type. So who's your ideal clients? You can talk about who you're targeting. If you're a freelancer, you can put that in here and other, say who you're open to, what industries, or say that you're open to everything. I'm going to say corporate L&D teams for right now. This next one is one of my favorite questions. Anything you love or hate in portfolio design. So if there's something that you really like, a style you really like, you can add that here. If there's something you hate, like you hate when websites have animations where things fly in from the sides, you can say that you hate that and it'll know to avoid those things. So you can really customize, do a lot of customization here. And these fields will expand. So if you need to be able to see all of the stuff that you're adding in here, you can do that. This is really where you can put in a lot of information. And then same thing here, what it's using for what makes your instructional design work distinctive. It's going to help with like hero copy. So like your value statement, but you can tell it what that is. It's going to help with like how it's wording things, even just like the wording of the buttons, stuff like that. So you have a lot of stuff here to really customize it within that first build. And then what assets do you already have? So if you have a logo, you can mark that off. If you have an image of yourself to go at the top, you can mark that off. Your featured projects, you can check off all the things you want, and it's going to look for those in your next message. And then brand details and anything else that you want to tell it. So if you have a color palette or a font or your email address, your LinkedIn URL, any text that you've written, you can drop all of that stuff in here also, and it'll get started. Now, one thing to know is this is still generative AI, right? It's going to read and interpret this prompt pretty similarly each time, but the way it formats these questions might be different. For the most part, it has been the same look as what I just showed you, but that extra question at the end of like, what else do you want to share? That sometimes appears and sometimes doesn't. It sometimes appears in different places. So because it is AI, it's going to interpret some of these pieces different sometimes. So if your questionnaire looks like a tiny bit different, that's why it's AI. So it's going to be just a bit different. All right, so I've filled everything in. So like I said, it's one-page portfolio. We're going for this like luxury style. I told it a little bit about my work. So lots of storytelling. Visual design is one of my strong suits, and I said that I can use this to help me write my value statement and some about me text. And like I said, I'm going to try to target corporate L&D teams with this. Anything you love or hate. Again, these sections are probably going to be the ones where you want to add a lot of information to really get it to exactly what you want. This isn't a lot here, but it's going to be enough to get us started. So like I said, I want it to look luxury style. I don't want it to be really busy with like stuff all over the place. I want lots of white space so things can breathe. I don't want pill-shaped tags on the website because I want everything to look clean and sharp. So we'll see what it does with that. Again, the more descriptive you can be, the better. Some assets that I do have, I have a logo. I am going to still use like the logo. I'm going to use the assets from this site here that I showed you at the beginning. So I have some of those gathered. So I'm going to have the logo, the picture of myself, the featured project image. I have some about me photos. I do have my brand colors, font, and featured project summary. So just like the few lines about my project, and then some contact info email. Now the testimonial photos I don't have, or the testimonial, I mean, I can get those. The testimonial text, I'm going to try it a little bit differently, and I'll show you when we get to that section. So I'm not going to say that I have it right now, and then write up, I'll have to do for my project. All right, down here, I went ahead and told it the color palette that I want to use. And again, I'm going to make it the same color palette as this one. I'm just going for a different style. The font, I chose Josephine Sands because that feels a little bit more luxury-ish. I went ahead and gave it my email, my LinkedIn, and then my featured project summary. So my few sentences about my project. All right, and then we just press continue, and it's going to get to thinking. All right, Claude is starting to build the website. It did say there aren't any assets in the project yet, so it's going to build with placeholders. So I'll let it build, and then I'll drop in everything once it's done building. Okay, here's the website that it built for us. We see this is our navigation bar, our hero section. It'll add our image in here. It did write the copy for us based on what I told it. And then here we have for our featured project, testimonials, and it is in the prompt. It does say to add a slider and space for at least for 2 testimonials. So if you have more, you just tell it you have more. Or if you just have one, you can tell you just have one. but it has a setup so that you can add in those pieces. An about section. So again, we're building a 1-page portfolio. Here's our contact and then our footer area. So it's giving us some nice stuff here. We have some hover states, which look to be working nicely. And then over here, it's telling us in the chat what it did. So it's saying the tone, we use lots of that white space, these thin like hairline pieces. And then it even says like about the colors that there is one that failed with small text. So it used a darker shade so that it is still passing those contrast guidelines. It even tells us which sections it wrote for us. So if we wanted to go in and edit it, we could. And then says, I labeled everything that's missing. And when you're ready, just go ahead and drop stuff in. So this chat is already getting kind of long because of our long prompt and stuff like that. The longer your chat gets, the more usage you're going to end up using. So here we can see I've used up 28% of my session usage. But I'm going to go ahead and drop in my assets and let it do that. And then I'll go in and do some editing. So I do have a folder with all of my stuff that I want to use. Wrong folder. And I'll drag those in. All right. And then I don't have, I could get the text for my testimonials, but what I'd rather do instead, I'm going to go to my old portfolio website and I'm just going to grab a screenshot of these and I'll paste that into the chat here and let it grab the copy from there. So here are a lot of the assets that I want to add in. And then I'll just say, here are some assets. There is also a screenshot of my testimonials. All right, and then I'm gonna let it do its thing. So we can edit our Claude Design portfolio website by prompting, and it really is just that easy. You'll describe what you want it to do, and it'll make those changes. So we'll go through and make some edits together. There's another way to edit also. You can just use the edit feature in Claude Design and go in and directly change things. So I'll show you how to do that too. But now Claude is going to go ahead and look at those assets and place them where we want them. So I'll be back once it's ready. Oh, while it's thinking, I'll also show you it did create a write-up page. So if we press View Project, and you'll notice that I'm clicking the buttons and navigating within here, it does connect everything for you also. If you notice anything's not connected, you just prompt and tell it. So here is our project write-up page. It's going to wait for an image. It writes our summary, and it is following the layout that was in the prompt. I've noticed a lot of times it does this like 0-1 action mapping. So if lots of websites are doing this, you can always just tell it to get rid of that or delete it. But yeah, it takes us all the way down to the results and then trying it out or getting in touch. So yeah, so it's doing that. It is adding in the images over here. And it is looking at those. So like I was saying too, you can just go in and straight edit stuff. So like here, up here at the very top is the edit button. When you select it, you can just click on something. So I'm in the wrong, if I go to the write-up. So you can just edit by like selecting and fixing the font. You can change the color. You can do a lot of different stuff over here. So it's pretty nice. You can just edit straight in here. All right, it is adding stuff in, so I don't want to, to break anything. But I'll be back once it's done adding in the assets. All right, here we go, added in the assets. And I really like that it does this summary over here in the chat each time too. So you can see it thinking, but then I like at the end that it says like, all right, here's what I did. So in the navigation bar in the footer, I went ahead and added your logos. In the hero, it added in our headshot. In the featured project, I went ahead and used the mock-up that I shared with it. And it did differentiate between this this mock-up and then for the project write-up, this like longer one. So it threw in this one here to make it bigger, but I actually do have a more like hero banner kind of image that I'll have it replace later. The testimonials, it did work. So using that screenshot, I was able to pull the text and bring in those pieces along with the names and their roles. And I did make sure to check and the text is the same. So that's really nice. It grabbed one of my images that I put in the About Me. I did write the About Me section based again on the stuff that I told at the beginning. And so I think I want all of my images in here. I want a little collage, so I'll tell it that. And then, yeah, it added these pieces. This is probably redundant, right, to have my email address and then an email me button. They are both going to the same thing. but it does have our LinkedIn. I don't know if you can see down at the bottom, but it is showing that it is going to my LinkedIn address. I see the Sabrina G LXD, so perfect. And then we have some stuff down here in our footer, and it added in my logo, and then we have our like all rights reserved copyright stuff. So this is looking really good. I feel pretty good about a lot of this, honestly. I don't know if I want this text up here, right? Because I do say some of this already. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm going to get rid of it. And it's very easy. I can prompt and tell Claude to get rid of it, but I'm just going to go up here to the edit. So sometimes if you're in the wrong page, it won't show you stuff. But I don't know why this is happening. Okay, let me investigate. Okay, well, I'm glad I tested that and I figured it out here so that you guys don't run into this issue. I hadn't had this problem before, so it was interesting that it came up now. So what was happening, I'll kind of summarize what I went into a new chat in Claude Design within the same project to say, like, here's what the site is supposed to look like, but when I go to edit, nothing is showing what's going on. And so let me kind of summarize what it said. So it said because we had a scroll animation, everything was coming in at 0% opacity. So it's coming in transparent. And the only time it knows to like reveal those and like change that transparency back like up, the opacity back up to 100% is by reading the JavaScript. But when we go into the edit feature, nothing is triggering that JavaScript to make those images show or anything show. So it's staying invisible, which is why we only saw the navigation bar at the top. So what I asked Claude to do for now, I said, go ahead and take away those scroll animations so that I can make edits, and then we'll add it back in at the end. So if you do that, if you come to your site and you try to do like a manual edit and things are not there, it could be scroll animations or any kind of reveal animation not showing. So you can just ask Claude, take away those animations, we'll add them back in at the end. So there were some scroll animations, like when you scroll down the page, like things were revealing themselves, but because they're coming in invisible, when we try to edit, they were invisible. So now let me show you what I was saying about the editing. Okay, so I just go to edit. Here are all of my pieces. If I don't like this, after all, I can just press delete and delete it. And then this little rectangle that's there, maybe I don't want that either. I can just delete it and press save. So you can go in and make manual edits, and you don't have to try to prompt, which is a good way to save some of your usage. Some other things too, like if you edit, maybe I want this button to actually go to my About Me section. Well, I can change the text to say About, and then over here in Destination, you'll see it says Contact. So then I can just change it to About, and it's using the little like hashtag in front of it because remember we're on one page, so it's scrolling down to here. So then I would change it to just About, and I can make it go to the About section and then just change this so that it says like Get to Know Me or something like that. So you can go in and there's like, if you just want simple, changing the colors, changing the font, you can do that. Pro gives you a little bit more, or you can even look at the advanced things with like the hover states and stuff like that. So you can do a lot in here manually as well, which will save you tokens because you are doing them yourself. Now, something that I did know from my own portfolio website that I am building and like from these tests and things like that is when you go through and make the manual edits on this like desktop version, they don't always apply to the mobile version. So you will still have to prompt Claude and say update the mobile version as well. Okay. Other things is prompting it, right? So that's why I said we can change stuff. So if I go here, I don't want this in here, but I am a little afraid to delete it manually in case it like messes things up. So I'm just going to prompt Claude and say in the featured section, remove the role, tools, and timeline section. So I could just send this, but since we're in here, we can make a few other changes. So then I'll even say like in the testimonials, let's say testimonials. Let's add a fill to the block with their initials. So instead of it being black, maybe we'll add a color until I add in those images. And then in the About section, I really just want to say please every time, but adding more characters is just going to use up more of my context. So I'm trying not to say please, even though I really want to. Use all 3 of the images I shared in a previous message. Create a collage. Yeah, we'll say that. Create a collage. Okay, and I do see I'm in the wrong chat, so I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go back to that build chat. And I'm going to drop this in and send. And it's going to start working. If you've not seen Claude Design work before, it is really cool. It feels like magic. You see things start to change. It can also be a little bit scary because some things may just like get super huge and then disappear. So it can be scary. Just let it do its thing. It won't break anything. But if it does, you just ask it to fix it. All right, I'm going to let it make those edits and then I'll come back and show you. Claude is still working, but I want to point something out. So you did see me switch like my chats up here. I went to the one that was asking about why can't I see anything in the edit and then coming back here. So this new chat is not where that happened, but it does say like I saw that you removed those. I'll keep that. So it doesn't try to force anything back in. It's going to keep context from all of your different chats within a project, which is really nice. I forgot to tell it about the contact to remove this. So that would be something to do next, of course. But yeah, it went ahead and created a collage with my image and my pictures with me and my pups, changed that background color like we wanted, removed those pieces that we wanted as well. So this is looking pretty good. Now I would go through and spend more time fine-tuning everything, but I think you get the idea. Oh, I did want to share something. So this image here of my headshot and this one here, I actually used ChatGPT to help me with those. Those are selfies that I took. Like the one in my hero section is a selfie I took while hiking, and the other one is a selfie I took while at the Royal Gorge. And in both of those, I'm wearing a backpack with like straps and things. So I asked ChatGPT to remove those straps and make it look not like a selfie and like a professional headshot. And it did a pretty good job, right? It blurred out the background of these trees. It did remove my pocket, but it removed my backpack straps. Like you wouldn't know I was wearing a backpack in that one. In this one, I was wearing a crossbody. So I'm impressed that it was able to like get that just right. So yeah, if you don't have headshots, but you need an image to put in there for now, try using AI. All right, so here is our site. Now, like I said, I would go through and fine tune each of these different pieces, like get rid of this redundant piece here, but I'm not going to go through that. What I want to talk about next is the project write-up page. Right, so it's going to give us some pieces to fill in. It gives us a lot of the main pieces that you would want in a write-up where you're talking about the why and not so much just the what you built, but the why. I do have, this is a good time where I would like go away and go do the write-up, which is also helpful for your usage, right? As we get a little bit closer, I see it resets in 2 hours and 22 minutes. So that is a good time where I can go like write some copy, take screenshots of my projects, create device mockup images, write other copy that I need to, think of other stuff that I want to share on my portfolio website. So I can go away and do some of that stuff, give this time to reset. But what I want to do for this write-up, I'm going to show you a little bit more of how I approached it. So I did my write-up in a Google Doc, and you're going to notice there are some brackets. So here I'm saying this is where we want to add this screenshot, CRM screenshot 1 dashboard. And in my assets folder, you'll see that I'm naming them the exact same, CRM screenshot 1 dashboard. So now when I grab this document with the copy for my portfolio or for my project write-up and those assets, Claude Design will know exactly where I want to put things. The other thing I'm doing is I want to space out where I have buttons for people to experiment with the project. I want to have those call to action spread throughout my write-up, so I do have brackets for those as well. Now, I could just copy and paste this text into Claude Design. I could download it as a PDF and add it in there. But the best way, and what's going to save you is tokens, the prompt we used, like I said, used Markdown. That's where you saw like the hashtags and the little like carrots and different things like that. We can change our Google Doc into Markdown. And what's nice is it's going to keep our heading. So like this is a heading 1. Markdown is going to show that that is a heading 1. And so Claude Design knows to keep it as a heading 1. And we'll be able to have all of these pieces here. So to do this, I just typed everything in, showed you where I wanted like my buttons and stuff like that. We go to File, download, and then we have markdown, and it's going to give you a different kind of file. So I'll show you here. It's going to look a little bit different. Mine is going to open in Visual Studio Code. Let me drag this over here so you can see it. But it's going to look very similar to what we did with the prompt, right? So you're going to see these like hashtags. That's telling us it's a heading 1. The asterisks are helping us know that it is in bold. We're seeing some of those other pieces that I added with the brackets. So it looks a little bit more code-like, you can say, but it just makes it easier for the AI to read. So now I am going to start a new chat because this is going to be about my project write-up page. So let me fill in this little prompt and then I'll come back. All right, I've added everything in so you can see my screenshots here. And then this little tiny pill shape down here is the markdown file for the write-up. So what I told Claude was, here are all the assets. The markdown file is going to tell you exactly where to put those images and buttons. The write-up does not follow the exact layout that it gave us here, so you may have to change things up. And I do want the images to be clickable, to be lightbox, so like this one here. If we see like these images are small, but they have lots of detail. So I want them to be clickable to kind of really see what's going on. So I described that to Claude and then we press send. The reason I started a new chat again is because I want to save myself on tokens. If you're not familiar, how it works is that conversation that goes back and forth is going to use your full context. So the full chat gets sent back and forth each time. That's going to use up more of your tokens. So starting a new chat is really helpful. It's also a nice way to keep yourself organized so that you know this chat is where I was doing the project write-up build. This chat is where I was doing the homepage build. This chat is where I really focused in on that contact banner, things like that. So let's go ahead and press send, and Claude's going to do its thing. I probably will not do any more fine tuning after this because I really want to show you the export and hosting process. So we'll let Claude build, I'll show you what it does, and then we'll jump into exporting and hosting. All right, here's everything added in. So it did change the title to match the title of the text that I gave it. And here is the image. It doesn't look like it used the hero banner image that I shared, so I would prompt it to tell it, no, use that one instead of this other one. They do look similar, and I think I named them kind of similar, but I changed the pieces here. I didn't give it the project link just yet, so I would do that next. And it's adding in all of the text that I gave it. These images are lightbox, so we can click on them to see them larger. And I like that it's putting the dark background, so it's sticking with that theme that we have. Has our metrics of what we would be looking for, our images, and then our buttons to try stuff out. So this is looking pretty good. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go through and continue editing all of the pieces. On Thursday, July 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we'll be having a live event where we'll go through exactly some of those things. So we'll talk about what makes a portfolio website really strong, and we'll talk about how to go through Claude Design and edit things and really personalize it and customize this portfolio to really represent you. So if you want to stop by that live event so you can learn more about customizing your portfolio website, check it out with the link below and sign up, and I really hope to see you there. Okay, so we have this website built, right? At this point, I would really recommend doing a thorough check. So you have 2 pages. If you did a 1-page website, if you did multiple, you're going to have multiple pages. But I would really go through and check, like, does every button have a link? So is everything clickable, linking to the right spot, going to the correct places? Does every placeholder have an image or text now? Like, are all placeholders gone? So not just buttons, but like your images. You don't want to share this out and then it says like, hero image goes here or something like that. So you want to make sure those are all good. And then you also want to make sure your images are clear. Doing like screenshot mockups of like your project can sometimes get blurry. So just making sure those are really clear and everything is like nice and good to go. So give it a good check over to your website before you export it. And then once you've done that, and you feel really strongly, it really represents you, then you're going to export your website. So I did a lot of experimenting in this part too to make sure that everything really worked. So there are 2 different export options, and I'll talk to you about the two trade-offs, I guess, for each of them. I did a lot of testing with this, and that's where I found some other pieces. And all of these things that I learned are all baked into this prompt to make sure that you get a really nice, clean, really solid export. One of the big things from the export prompt is optimizing your site, all of your images. So it's going to shrink them all down. So even if you do put something super high quality and it's a really large file, it is going to compress it, keep the sharpness the same, but it's just going to compress it, which is really nice because your website will still load really well and not have like an image missing that like comes in later, or the whole page like is delayed because of an image. So that is all baked into the prompt. So let me go ahead and show you that. All right. If you haven't grabbed this document that I'm sharing here with all of the prompts, that is linked in the description below so that you have everything you need. All right, the first option here is the zipped HTML package. So if you have just a one-page portfolio website, that does still have 2 pages, right? If you have a multi-page website, it's going to have a page for everything that it's navigating to. And we want to make sure all of that is packaged together for hosting. Now, the downside of this one is as you're navigating between pages, you're going to get a little flash. And that's just because your page is loading. It's not any different really than most websites where you do have this like little, a few milliseconds of like space in between. I can show you that here on this one. So if I go to the work page, right, it's just like a slight flash. There is not anything in this one yet, right? I don't have any assets added, so it is loading pretty quickly, but you can imagine if I had images that I had to load, there might be a little bit more of a flicker. So you kind of see that small flicker. So that is one of the trade-offs of doing the zipped package. The reason why you may want to do this is because Claude will not create a single package page in here. And why that's important is if I just had that single package piece in here and I make edits to that, it's not going to edit all of these other pages. So if I go back and publish like this about page, but I made edits to a different page, those are not going to show on this one unless I explicitly prompt it. So the downside is just you're going to have more to manage, I guess, because you'll have another page. But if that doesn't seem like a downside to you, then that is one. The upside, though, is having these different pages so that you can get to each of them. When it is a single package, and it's just that one page, you can still make edits like in the about section, do this, like I said, but it is harder to navigate because it uses JavaScript to hide the pages in that single package. And so it's just navigating it is different, and it's kind of a pain to do the updates. So you can update this about section, but then you have to tell Claude, do that to the single package too each time. So that's up to you how you want to approach it. So that other option is the single page. This one does load a lot smoother. That's what you see here for this one. So like when I click, there's like no lag at all. If I go to the project, it's very fast, even with those images. So what's happening is JavaScript is combining it all together and hiding a page at a time. So like right now it is on the project write-up page. When I press this button, it is hiding this page and showing the home page. So that's why it feels pretty instant. The downside, though, like I said, is it's going to create, I don't have one here, but it's going to create one page that is the single page, and it's just the editing that makes it a little bit more difficult. So it's up to you which one you want to use. Because I feel pretty good about the images and it compressing things, I'm going to go ahead and do a zipped package so I can show you that. So the zipped package is this one here. So again, in our document, we have the build prompt to get you started, and then 2 options for exporting, zipped or single. Again, single is going to put it into one page and be smoother. Zipped is just going to have a little flash in between, but it keeps your pages in Claude Design separate, making it easier to edit. Again, try them both, see what you like better. All we're going to do now is we're going to take this prompt and paste it into Claude. So what it's doing here is it's going to rename the files to make sure that it's understanding how to link everything. It's going to check that all the links are going to the right pages now with the renaming, and checking like those LinkedIn links are all going to the right spot. It's going to compress your images to make sure it's not such a huge package when it ships things out. The page weight, if it is still feeling like a really big project, it's going to cut down on anything that's unused, cut stuff out. It does know that there is a risk to doing this and will only do it if it's absolutely necessary. Other than that, it will skip it. It's going to try to minimize that flash again by optimizing your images, and then it's going to set your export into a folder. It does have reminders of not to like skip this big step of optimizing things. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt. Again, we're doing a zipped package. Doing a one-page HTML is also totally fine. Again, they just have their different options. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and do a new chat for exporting, paste it in. It doesn't look like anything pasted, but you can see it very small down here, pasted text lines. All right, and I'll send it, and I'll come back when this package is ready. All right, the project has been exported. I didn't add the URL to my project, like to link out to my project. So Claude did stop and ask for that URL. So I went ahead and shared it, and it got my buttons all wired and ready. And then it bundled everything up. So you're going to see that up here. It has my originals and then the other bundled ones. So it does keep it separate so that I can still make edits separately instead of having to try to navigate and search for things. And then it tells you what it does. So optimize the images. And it's nice because it's showing you exactly like how small it was able to get things. And then it gives us directions on how to host, saying to take this entire zipped package that we download and to take it, not to separate anything. The first page is titled index.html so that it's recognized as the home page, which is necessary for hosting on devlin.ai. And then it does warn us here because we did separate files. There's going to be that little slight flash. Okay, let's go ahead and download it from the chat. All right, with the project downloaded, we're going to head over to devlin.ai. If you are logged in, you're just going to look for the hosting tab. If you're not, then you're going to go to devlin.ai/hosting, and it'll bring you here after you sign in. So it's pretty simple from here. You can see one of my tests is down here, but all we do is select upload project. We're going to grab that zipped package that we just downloaded, keep it zipped. It's going to process that and get it set up. And there we go. It's ready. So you'll see we have this weird name here. I'm going to go ahead and change that, make it something descriptive because this will show in the like top tab. So we'll do Sabrina Gonzalez -portfolio. And then right here we have the URL. And you can see it's a pretty strange URL. So I'll show you how to change that. But let's go ahead and open it. And here is our website. Fully functional. We can click around to our sites. You can see that's where that little flash was. It happens just a bit here and there. But yeah, so we have our website with things working. So even taking us over to LinkedIn, email, it'll add up that like email client, or it'll open it up. If we go to the view project, we can go ahead and open up the project. So it is fully functioning. Now, this isn't a great URL to share with people, right? So we can change this and make it something more descriptive. So on the free tier on devlin.ai, you can go ahead and add a subdomain that's going to end with .devlin.host. So you can still host it for free here. So I don't want to take a good URL. So I'm going to do like sabgon test 999. So you can see that you can put like your name, portfolio, or like my domain is Sabrina G LXD. So I can use something like that right here. And it's a little bit more descriptive for people. So again, if I go ahead and open that, I'll bring this down a little bit so you can see it. So you can see my URL here and then my name changed up there. So you can change that. You can also add a custom domain. So down here, you can add a custom domain. So from the hosting page is where you're going to set it up first. So you'll add a custom domain just by pressing add domain. You're going to choose or link your domain here. It has steps to walk you through it. So you can do that. And then once you are in your site, then down here for custom domain, you just select it. And then you can choose if you're going to do a path or if you want it to be the home page, whatever that may be. And then your URL will work from there with your custom domain. So it's really easy to export and host it on devlin.ai. Now, we have our project hosted, right? And it's really exciting. But before you move on, what I would do is go back over to Claude. So if you have your portfolio ready to go, it's hosted, it's looking great. Before you go over and close out everything, come into Claude and export all of your files. So you can do that by going to Share, Export, and then Project Archive, and then Download. The reason you'll want to do that is if you end your Claude subscription, your projects may go away when you try to resubscribe. So downloading that Project Archive or that big zip file with everything in it is going to make it so that you have your whole project ready. And then if you get a Claude subscription again, you can just upload that whole project. Claude will rebuild everything, and then you just go from there. So you don't have to start from scratch. So definitely archive that. have a folder somewhere with everything in it that you need for your portfolio. It's going to make that organization piece a lot better for you, for future you, when you make some updates to your portfolio website. All right, now you've seen the whole process from building, iterating, exporting, and hosting. And if that hasn't convinced you yet that you should build your website on Claude Design, then let's take a look and compare Squarespace and this process head to head when it comes to customization, the time, and the cost. And we'll see if that changes your mind. All right, we're going to compare, like I said, customization, time, and the cost. So starting with customization, we're going to pair up Squarespace against Claude Design. So with Squarespace, there are really beautiful templates in Squarespace that you can use, but I've seen them get broken multiple times. So when you try to customize the template, it may change some things that are going on in the background and then makes things not really work. In Squarespace also, it's a little bit more difficult to create something that's truly unique to you without some custom code. So you may want to put something in a specific place. You may want a certain animation or a certain divider, but you have to write the code for it. So you still end up going to AI to write the code. And then even then trying to get it back into Squarespace may not always work. So it can be a little bit more difficult to get it perfectly unique. And if you've dealt with Squarespace, you know that it has grids, so it snaps objects to certain places, which can be helpful, but it's also not helpful when you're trying to get something exactly where you want it. Now with Claude Design, you have complete creative freedom, right? AI is going to generate the code for you, and it's really easy to iterate. So things are going to go exactly where you want them because you can just prompt Claude and say, move this here, change this, add this animation, or you're just prompting, you're just guiding it by talking and using a conversational text instead of having to be very technical with it. So the customization with Claude Design really makes things a lot easier than doing stuff manually in Squarespace. Now the time. I'll be honest that this is purely anecdotal and I've not done a full study on this, but what I've seen for web building platforms is Peck Academy students have spent weeks getting their websites just right because those platforms really have limitations that they have to work around. Even for myself with my Webflow website, it was such a big learning curve at the beginning to really learn how to navigate in Webflow. And I chose Webflow because I wanted that customization. But learning how to use it is where I spent some time and then had to go in and move things around. And even now, it's not the most easy website to manage and update. So the time that I put into that, I know was quite a bit. Now, Claude Design, like I said, that website that I showed at the very beginning, it took me less than a day to build. As I mentioned, when I saw my usage getting a little bit low, then I went and worked on the copy for my write-up for my project and then came back and dropped that in. And then whatever I need next, I go off and work on that and then come back. So I really was starting from scratch and it was still faster than when I built my initial portfolio. Now, Claude Design has already checked two very important boxes, right? Customization, making it uniquely yours, and time, saving you time so that you can get a portfolio website live as soon as possible. But there's one more piece of that puzzle. Before we can talk about the cost, I want to talk to you about devlin.ai. So I showed you that that's where I was hosting the website that I made. So there is a new option, right? So there is the free tier. Like I said, you can have the yourname.devlin.host, but there is the starter tier in devlin.ai. And this is really great if you are building your portfolio website because it is much more affordable than other pieces. And we'll do a cost breakdown here in a second. But it's also nice if you're wanting to just try out devlin.ai because you do get some credits too to try out the simulations. So you can host your portfolio and your courses right on devlin.ai. You can have them all in one place. So no putting your projects on AWS S3 and then having your website on Squarespace or Wix or somewhere else. You can put them all into one platform, which is nice. And then you can connect a custom domain like I showed you. So not just for your portfolio, but also for your projects, you can add that domain. And then like I said, you can try out the simulation. So the text-based simulations and voice mode simulations are included in the starter tier. So you can really give all of the tools a try within the starter tier. And I know I said earlier that it is more affordable than the other pieces because it is. So it's $6 per month if you pay annually. So $72 upfront for the whole year or $9 a month if you pay monthly. So it's a really affordable piece, especially if you're building your portfolio website. Like I said, I used Webflow for my portfolio. And I think managing that website is like, it's over $200 for hosting. But yeah, we're going to get into the breakdown with Squarespace. But yeah, I know hosting on Webflow was tough. It was a tough decision because I was a career transitioner who was looking for a job and didn't want to spend that kind of money on hosting. But if I wanted the site that was really going to represent me and one that I was going to be proud of, it's what I had to do. So it's nice to know that there are options out there. All right, let's really get into this cost breakdown. Okay, so first we're going to look over here at Squarespace. So Squarespace, you can add in a custom domain. It's $20 per year to get your custom domain. Sometimes it's $15, $14. Sometimes they have like sales and things. For the most part, it looks to be $20 per year. Now to host and have your website up on Squarespace, it's $16 per month if you pay for the full year, or $25 per month if you pay annually. So the total cost for Squarespace is anywhere from $212 to $320 per year to host and manage your website. So like I said, with Webflow, I had spent over $200 just to get it hosted, and then I was still paying for my domain as well. So it is quite expensive to host a portfolio website. And especially if you're a career transitioner looking for a job, it can be hard to make that decision. Now, Claude Design and the devlin.ai starter tier. So this is where you can have a custom domain because you're on that paid version of devlin.ai. So your custom domain is still going to be about $20 per year. Again, if you're getting it from Squarespace, there are other options, but it's about $20 per year. All right, so Claude Design is $20 per month. And then devlin.ai, like we just talked about. So that total comes to $112 to $148 per year to manage your website. And so this is taking into account if you're only using 1 month of Claude Design that year, right? Because it is pretty quick to build your portfolio website. So you may just need to subscribe to Claude for that 1 month, get it built, get it polished, and then you can end your subscription and then you archive your project so that you have it if you need to go back and make updates. So really what you're paying for the year is just the devlin.ai hosting feature, which is much more affordable than Squarespace. So it can be much more affordable. Now, even if that still feels like too much and you're thinking, what's the cheapest that I can do this for? And I would not blame you at all. It would be if we do Claude Design and the devlin.ai path, but using the devlin.ai free tier. So you wouldn't have a custom domain, right? It would still be something.devlin.host, which is still, you could still customize that beginning part, right? Like Sabrina Gonzalez portfolio, or yeah, whatever yours would be. And that one, you would just be paying that $20 per month for Claude Design and nothing for hosting it. So it's only $20 for the month that you have Claude, and then nothing after that. So there is no upkeep after it. So there are lots of options, right? And you can see that the method that I showed you using Claude Design and devlin.ai is much more affordable. So does that mean that Claude Design is a Squarespace, Wix, or Webflow killer? Well, it's pretty compelling if you're building a portfolio website. Again, that customization is much easier with Claude Design. It's going to save you some time, and the cost is definitely a better option, I would say, with Claude Design and devlin.ai. We worked through the build prompt to build our website. We made iterations by prompting Claude and using the edit feature. We talked about how to export the website and then showed how to host it on devlin.ai. If you've been putting off building your portfolio website, hopefully this gave you a really strong starting point so that you can get your work out there. And if you've been neglecting to update your portfolio website, like I was, hopefully this gave you an alternative way to build your site so that it's easy to upkeep. This workflow has been so impressive that our team has gone all in. We're updating our portfolio building course in Peck Academy, and we're really excited because we do think it's going to be much easier and so much more valuable to our students, but we also wanted to share that process with you all for free. And like I mentioned earlier, this week on Thursday, July 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we will be hosting a live event where we will continue the fun and talk about what makes a strong portfolio, and then go through how can we really prompt Claude to create something that is polished, professional, and unique to you. So I'd love to see you there. You can use the link down below to register, and I really appreciate you sticking through this video with me, and I'll see you around. Bye.